But it's our duty. For me, it's our duty to play full out. It's our duty to get uncomfortable because we don't grow in our comfort zone. And our soul is here for growth, for expansion, to experience everything that we possibly can. And that means following your dreams, because again, I believe our dreams are our soul's whisper. That's what we're here to do. That's like, it's our magnet, right? We're meant to move towards them.
Hey everyone, let's start healing. I'm Adrienne Murchison, and this is episode 126 of the Let's Start Healing podcast. We have more in common than we think, and what we have in common can change the world. Well, this is the first episode of a new year. We are in 2024, and my question for you is, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? How are you living? That is a question that I certainly ask myself over and over again because I want to keep moving forward. And I know that so many of us are like that. There's so many things that we have, dreams that we want to see fulfilled. And my guest today will speak to that, and I'm going to get to fabulous her in a moment. I've been thinking today about where we are in the world and how it appears that we are very divisive, and we are in many ways, but also there is a large number in our population across this planet who we feel connected. We want to live a fruitful life where we can be of service if we can, where we can do good in the world, where we can experience love in our hearts and love for our fellow man, and that we can live out our dreams without that jeopardizing another person. And it appears through the media often that the opposite of that is the majority of us across the world, but that's not really true. And so many people, I was thinking this earlier today, so many of us are really about spirituality. We couldn't talk about spirituality. I mean, I've been spiritual my whole life and have been focusing on my spirituality for almost 20 years. But the things that I talk about with my friends, my loved ones around spirituality, all the different ideas around mysticism, around God that are not traditional, we couldn't talk in that way. Maybe even 5 years ago, definitely not 10 years ago, where we weren't getting the side eye. I mean, just think about astrology. I've seen astrology commercials on TV, on regular TV. We weren't seeing that 5 years ago, definitely not 10 years ago. So there's so much in the way of our advancing and moving forward that is going on, but we didn't really have that happening even a few years ago before the pandemic. But the question is, what are we doing to make our lives better and to make this place a better place, to make this planet a better place? What are we doing for our fellow man? How are we connecting with our divinity and our higher power? And sometimes I try to tiptoe around that despite this podcast, because I want this podcast to be open to everyone. One of the reasons that I was inspired to do this podcast is because of my spiritual uh, relationships and discussion groups I've been a part of, have included people from so many different faiths. And I've seen how we have so much in common, more than we think, how we can bond actually over our differences. Because if you're Jewish or you're a Muslim or you're some other faith that is other than what mine is, the underlying truth around all of our faiths is love. And that's how we bond. So I think the time is now for us to really be accountable about what we're doing to just make this world a better place. And I think that that comes down to what are we doing in our individual lives? What are we doing when we get up in the morning and we go out into the world? We go to the grocery store, the gas station, or we go to work. What are we doing? Are we being kind? Are we being mindful of someone else's experiences, that they have a different experience than we have? I think you get what I'm saying, so I'm not going to belabor it, but these are some of the things that have been coming up for me, trying to be contemplative with the end of one year and the beginning of another year. And again, I think that we are uh, further along than the information that we receive would let us think. And I think the more that we expand our consciousness and we evolve, there is naturally going to be a negative element that is going to rise up against that, because obviously there are people in this world who are about greed and getting over on you and me and our fellow man. And I was talking with someone who I love dearly the other day, I think yesterday actually. And because I was saying this, the person thought that I was against capitalism and that I wasn't really, I don't want to say that they didn't think I was in reality, but they were trying to bring reality to me about how the world operates and that people are really unscrupulous. And that's just the way that it is. And that's true. And I'm a capitalist. I believe in capitalism, but I also believe in fairness. I don't think that I have to slay you and kill you, to get what I want. I don't believe that I have to do that. Now, I may have to do that if you hurt somebody I love. Just saying, that's a different story. Anyway, my guest today is mindset coach Clare Garner. She is wonderful, and she talks about so many important things about how we get to fulfilling our dreams, and that we get to do that. All of us can live a dream fulfilled. All of us can earn the money that we want to earn, and we don't have to sacrifice one thing to get the other. So she is really about that. And she talks about her journey into discovering this and to getting to a place of prosperity. And she is still growing and conquering experiences that she has been through, mindsets, negative mindsets, and also going through some very real things in her relationship, such as abuse and thinking that she wasn't good enough and that she couldn't accomplish the things that she really wanted to accomplish. And one of the things that really came up for me that we talk about a little bit is just if we are really going through a horrible time of depression, of being held down and being held back, of abuse of some kind, whether you're an adult or whether you're a child, it can really obviously block our beliefs of what we could be. And she had a notion of what she could be, Claire. She had an idea of, she saw herself. She's always been a visionary, which she'll talk about. She saw all that she could do. She had hopes and dreams about all that she could do. And now she's experiencing those hopes and dreams. And it really struck me how when we are really being held down, we may never get to that positive mindset. There are some people who never realize that um, there can be a better life. There can be another life because they are being subjected to such horrible things. And it just really, it really affected me how she has come through what she has come through. That actually has me thinking about A Color Purple, because that is Celia's story about being held down and being told that she was something that she was not, being told that she was nothing when she was everything, everything. And it wasn't just through her being the person that she came through, but it was also through the grace of God, the grace of something higher, a higher power. Beautiful movie, if you happen to see it. Well, so much coming to you this year. I'm wondering what resolutions you've made for this year, how you want to move forward. I know for me, one of the things that I want is balance, continued balance, and continued self empowerment. I stepped into that in a big way in 2023. I want growth. I found new love that, frankly, I didn't really think that I could have for myself, but I was open a little bit. I had a little bit of willingness, a little bit of openness, and thank God that happened for me. But I am going to continue to step into my power and continue to bring you some pointed thoughts as we continue on our road to healing. Let's Start Healing is real. I really want us to heal and be on that road, knowing that it's an ongoing process. We may get to Z in one area, and then, we're at the very beginning. We're like in grade school in another area around healing. One of the reasons that I think it's important for us to try to heal around the issues in our lives is because, one, if we don't, that unhealed part of ourselves is going to always continue to rise up in different situations. Just when we think something is going right, just when we feel like our heart is open, or we're reaching that dream, something will arise from some unhealed part of ourselves. Or somebody could just push our buttons and something can arise from that unhealed part of ourselves. So that's one reason that I think it's so important for us to try to heal and address our issues, our shit. Another reason is because there's always going to be something else that is going to call for healing. There's going to be new situations that arise in our lives as human beings. And that is going to call for healing, because that's what being a human is about, these different life experiences. So let's get to it. Let's start healing. Please subscribe to the podcast. Remember, you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and YouTube. Like the episode. Please share Let's Start Healing with at least one person. Let me know what you think. Follow us on Instagram. You can send me an email at letstarthealingpodcast@gmail.com. So let's meet Clare. Let's get started, and let's start healing. Welcome, Clare.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
This is very exciting. You're the first person that I have talked to in Europe, international.
I love how global I am at the moment.
You're very global. You're very global. So you're in London and it is 7:30 p.m. there.
It is, yes.
Okay. Okay. Wow. Well, it's
I
afternoon.
might look a little bit more tired.
Well, thank you. This is going to be easy breezy. It's such a casual podcast, very laid back. So you are many things. You're a motivational speaker. You're a women's self-empowerment coach. You're a healer. This is a healing podcast. And the first question I want to ask you before we go into your story and what you do is, what do you consider your superpower to be? And I actually wrote something down. You said on your website, you have your mind is your superpower. And what is your particular superpower?
So I believe that my superpower is no surprise, my voice. I believe that when I talk, when I share in any regard, right, whether it's speaking on a stage, whether it's on a podcast, whether it's one-to-one with friends, family, clients, whoever it is, a lot of the time, I don't remember what I've even said. It's kind of, it just flows through me. Like, we'll record this now. I guarantee you I won't remember half of it. And I have to re-listen to things because it just kind of, I'm the channel, I'm the vessel, and I don't proclaim to be, you know, like a kind of godlike person, but it just, yeah, my voice just kind of
Yes.
does it so
I know that that is real. I was just talking about this type of thing yesterday. I was in a spiritual discussion group weekly with someone who passed away a few years ago, and he was so deep. And he would say the most profound things. And I would say sometimes, would you say that again? Because I wanted it to sink in. And he couldn't repeat it.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
He could not repeat it. So describe your work. As I said, you are multifaceted.
Yeah, so basically that is my title, a multi-passionate, because I do many different things, but overarching, my purpose in life, my mission, my dharma, whatever you want to call it, is to empower women. So to empower women everywhere to step out of the shadows, really, to start taking up space, to start playing big, to start realizing their full potential and play full out. So that's kind of, you know, my overarching umbrella, if you like. And underneath that, I do that in many different ways. So I have a corporate business, and then I have a crystal business, which I'm just starting to franchise at the moment, which is something that I just love so much. It's very close to my heart because I started it with my eldest daughter back in lockdown. And then I have Phoenix, which is my empowerment brand, and that encompasses my speaking, my programs, my retreats, my events, kind of all the like nitty gritty, like empowerment stuff that you would expect under that banner. So yeah, I think that covers everything. I have a lot of fingers in a lot of pies.
So can you share how you got here? And first, can you talk about your spirituality? Did that play a role in you being you right now? And what do you call your higher power? I call my higher power God. Some people call their higher power or source, divine.
Yeah. For me, it's the universe. I use a few different terms. So the universe is probably the one that I use the most, but I also use the quantum field, and I also use higher consciousness. And I kind of mix those. And I think ultimately we're all talking about the same thing. We're all talking about something that is higher than us, that we can't see, that is, you know, kind of behind the scenes doing things that we don't know about, right? And you know, I think whatever you call it is kind of irrelevant. We're all just talking about the same thing. But yeah, so for me, I kind of flip between those different words, and they all resonate with me.
And so when do you most
the other question?
When do you most feel this presence, the presence of the universe really connecting with your heart and your spirit?
Did you say when? Sorry.
Yes.
Oh gosh, well, it's easily through meditation. You know, that's when, or actually also through, I guess I do kind of walking meditation a lot. So I walk in nature, just, you know, no AirPods on, no kind of phone, just being. I can go a bit woo-woo into that conversation because I actually channel my spirit guides through that, and I kind of get my downloads for the day. So for me, actually, that time is I'm really at one. I'm really connected. And I laugh about it because I always think people think I'm crazy because I'll be walking and I'll be talking out loud. It's the way that I channel through my spirit guides. So I literally just start talking. And again, it just kind of comes out. but I don't filter it. So people are walking their dogs or, whatever, walking past me, I'm like, what's she doing? So
But
yeah,
when you
so for me, that.
And when you say that you're talking, are you having a communication exchange? Because that can happen to me. I feel an actual exchange of conversation.
Yeah, so I don't, and it's so I actually I don't want to say envy, that's the wrong word, but I get a little bit of like, oh, I would like to experience that, but I don't. So the way that it happens for me, it's really hard to explain in words. It's kind of, I just start noticing things, right? So I walk along the River Thames where I live in London, and sometimes like you might notice a bird, sometimes you might notice a dog, sometimes a boat, whatever's in your vision. And I'm very aware of what I'm being aware of, right? And then it's like, okay, and I literally do this. I start talking out loud. So I'm like, okay, I see the bird. What's the message with the bird? And then it just starts, and one thing will lead to another. And I can't even explain it. I'm not hearing anything. I don't have that gift, unfortunately. It just, I don't know where it comes from.
It is, and I didn't mean necessarily hearing with our ears. I think
Okay.
you are communicating because you're receiving information, awareness, enlightenment through your spirit. It's something
Yeah.
that's coming, touching you within. That's really beautiful.
Yeah, it's like it's indescribable. I can't find the words to articulate it.
Yeah, it's probably we are limited by our words, but it's really, really beautiful. And how did this uh impact your journey and play a role in where you are today?
Oh my
I've
God.
read on your website, I've seen little clips of video where you talk about you were in an unhealthy relationship, and how did that what was that experience, and how did that bring you to this powerful place that you're in?
Oh my gosh. So yeah, I'll try and condense this down because there's a lot to it. But basically I was in a 15-year abusive relationship from the age of 18, so a long time. And it was one of those where, the universe sends you signs, right? And there gets a point where if you keep ignoring those signs, it's gonna do it for you, right? It's like, you're not doing what you need to do, I'm going to do it for you. And so I had my tower moment, as I call it, where when my whole world just completely crashed and burned around me, where I was finally able to leave the relationship. And I say that because I had tried many, 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 many times, but I always went back through my own fear of failure, really, fear of failure, of being able to make it on my own. Which is ironic, I know, because obviously it was not a good place to be, but this is what our subconscious does to us. But anyway, so I had my tower moment where I finally left. But what that actually meant is, although obviously it was a good thing for me and my kids at the time, it was my world, right? It was everything that I knew. And kind of overnight, almost, I had to leave my house with my kids. I had to uproot them from school. I had to call police. I had to somehow manage a business. I had one business at the time. I had to kind of figure out how to still do that in this midst of chaos. I had to leave the town that I lived in. It just, all sorts of things that happened. So long story short is, my best friend at the time had virtually an identical situation where she had left an abusive relationship within a couple of months of each other. And we just literally spent the next year on this incredible healing journey, spiritual awakening, I don't even know where it came from. She was quite spiritual anyway, but I was not in that world. And I would go around there days upon days upon days when the kids were at school and stuff. And we would just watch tarot readings or dive into our astrological charts, trying to make sense really of our worlds, right? Trying to understand why this was happening to us. How had we ended up in these situations? And that led me to crystals. So she had crystals. I had not been in that world. And I remember saying to her one of the very first times that I'd gone around there after the break, and I said, do you know, I'm so drawn to your crystals and I don't know why, but I feel like I'm meant to do something with them. And then a year later, I started up with my crystal business. And obviously 3-4 years later now, that's something that I'm franchising, which is amazing. But yeah, so that whole year was fundamental to my growth, because it made me find myself. I didn't know who I was before that. It enabled me to find my purpose in life, because I had a business and I was an entrepreneur, which is something I'd always wanted to be, but I was very unfulfilled. Like my soul was not happy. It was just like, this is not what we're meant to do in the world. And so that led me onto the path of self-development and coaching and finding my purpose and all that kind of stuff. And everything just kind of snowballed, I guess. One thing led to another. And I actually went through a massive shift, which I'll just touch on briefly because it's really important to my journey, where I was in the crystal world for about a year, and I had grown that business really well to multiple six figures in the first year. And it was really great, had a great tribe, great community. And I'd suddenly gone into this coaching world and started healing my traumas around money, right? And started to kind of go into that world about the shame and the stigma around money. And at that point, something interesting happened, because the world that I was in spiritually kind of turned their back on me when I started talking about that and exploring that. And that led me on a whole nother spiral of eventually self-sabotaging that business, because I was really conflicted in my worlds. And I was like, I don't understand what I'm meant to do here. Like, I love the 3D world. I do. I like nice things. I like wealth. I like money. I like abundance. I like to experience this world. I also like to be at one. I like to be in connection. I like to follow my intuition. I want to do good in the world. And it was like each world was telling me you can't have both. And so I ended up, self-sabotaging the crystal business, because I felt like I couldn't be me. I couldn't be who I wanted to be. And ultimately, that led me to finding my truest path. And actually now part of what I empower other women to do is to say, you get to have both worlds. You get to have it all, because you're a spiritual being having a human experience. It's part of the parcel. Sorry, I went a bit of a tangent there, but it's quite important to my journey.
No, my gosh, you are filling me up. You're just filling up my heart. You really are. And I hope I remember everything that came up as you were talking. First, was it physical abuse and emotional abuse, or was it more emotional? It was physical as well as emotional.
Yeah. But he was also a compulsive gambler. So I also had a lot of money trauma involved. So that, my whole story was a whole lot of poop.
Yes. I'd like to get to the money part in a moment. I was thinking as you were talking, I have a friend, he's very spiritual and does motivational speaking among other things. And he has a saying, who would you be if you didn't know who you were? Or if you didn't know who you are, who would you be? And as you were talking, I feel so emotional about it, because I'm thinking about, it's incredible that you came through this and you are so in your purpose right now in so many different ways. And, there's other women and men and children, who are in just unhealthy situations and are being held down and may never know. They may never get there. They would never dream that they could be all that they could be, or imagine, all these wonderful things that they could be. And it's just a beautiful thing, that not only did you come out of this, but the way that you're thriving,
Mm. Yeah.
is amazing.
It's why I called my brand Phoenix, right? It's
Yes,
you have to
yes.
go through you have to go through the ashes. It literally felt like I said, my whole world had burnt to the ground, and then you rise
So,
more
yes.
powerful and brighter than before.
Yes, and, before I forget, I love that you call this the 3D world, because so many of my spiritual friends, in study will refer to this world as an illusion, and basically, I think that's the same thing, the 3D world. I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think again, it's kind of like the higher power talk, right? It's,
Yes.
people use different terminologies, but I think essentially we're all talking about the same thing, the matrix. I know a lot of people call it that as well.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, I think ultimately we're all just talking about the stuff around us, right? This world that we
We can touch
experience.
that we can touch and feel.
Yeah.
And so, speak about money, if you could, a little bit. Oh my God. Before you speak about money, I don't want to forget this question. Who
That's
did
okay.
you discover that you are? So, you do
Yeah.
all these different wonderful things. Who did you
Mm.
discover you are?
So I discovered that I'm a visionary. That was my thing, and that's obviously that leads me on to I have a program called the Visionary Academy. But yeah, so I discovered that I am here for more, and that I am here to do big things in the world, and that I am worthy of that, and I don't have to feel shame around that. I believe I didn't choose this. My soul chose this. So for me to deny it is denying my soul contract, right? It's denying what my soul is here to do. And that just means I'm going to have to keep coming back until I figure this out. So it's like, I say this kind of tongue in cheek a little bit, but it's our duty. For me, it's our duty to play full out. It's our duty to get uncomfortable, because we don't grow in our comfort zone. And our soul is here for growth, for expansion, to experience everything that we possibly can. And that means following your dreams, because again, I believe our dreams are our soul's whisper. That's what we're here to do. That's like, it's our magnet, right? We're meant to move towards them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I say that I want to get this right because I don't want to come back. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Trying to get this right now.
Yeah.
So, talk about money before we go to the other things, and just myself included. So many of us have had issues around money, and in fact, I'm trying to think of a saying another friend used to say, I forgive money for the way I have used money to hurt me. That was
Ooh.
a powerful saying that I adopted a few years ago. And
Mm.
would you speak to just what you've learned around money and that journey, and how you empower people around that topic?
Yeah, so I love I love to be the rebel, right? So I love to talk about all the things that people think you shouldn't talk about. So, money, spirituality, sex you can throw in there, anything that you feel like that's me. But yeah, so money, it's an interesting journey for me, because I the story that I grew up with around money was that it was very hard to come by. If you got it, you had to hold on to it with, tooth and nail, because once it's gone, you might never get it back. and you had to work your socks off to be able to get it, right? Money doesn't grow on trees, that kind of thing. Like, it's, you have to sacrifice to earn money. So that was my upbringing. And I don't blame my parents for that. You know, they had their own relationships with money. They were, you know, their parents were from the Victorian era, so they had their own stories and struggles, right? So I don't hold anything against anyone, but this is essentially what we have to heal, right? So that was my upbringing, but I always had a desire for money, and some people don't. Okay, and that's fine. And if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't want money, absolutely fine. You're not meant to follow it. But some people do, and that's not egotistic. It's not superficial. It's not subscribing to capitalism, right? It's because your soul is here to experience wealth. It is part of your journey. It is part of your purpose. If you desire it, it is because it is meant for you. You are meant to experience it. This is my beliefs, right? So
yeah.
So that I always had the desire for wealth ever since I can remember. And then obviously the universe throws us these lessons, right, that we have to learn. So obviously I was in a 15-year relationship with a compulsive gambler from the age of 18. So in my business life, because I was an entrepreneur, I was always trying to get money. You know, I was trying to make money, and yet it would be taken from me constantly. So it was like this never ending, you know, pull, push kind of thing. It was like, bring it in, goes out, bring it in, goes out. And it was repeating the same beliefs, right? Money comes in. If you let go of it, it goes back out. So this was the lesson that I had to learn, that actually I could heal this. I could heal this narrative. But that wasn't going to happen until I left the relationship, obviously, which took me some years to realize. So when I left and I started going through all of this self-development and healing my own journey with money, I realized that money is energy, right? If you want to drill down into it, everything is energy. You know, we know this in this world. Every single thing is energy. Money is no different. If you have $100 bill in front of you, it means nothing other than the meaning you give it. It's your story that makes it good, bad, indifferent, something that will help you, something that is going to cause you problems, cause an argument maybe. You know, it's all your own stuff. It's all your own journeys. And that is the weight that we then put onto money that comes into us. And so, long story short, you know, it's what I do is I teach women what their story is around their money and how they heal it, because it's a relationship like anything else. You know, law of attraction, like attracts like. And if we say that we like something, but our actions show different, like you say you want more money because you want to go on holiday, or, you know, you want a nice car, or whatever it is, I want some more crystals, you know, whatever it is, but then you tell your friends that you know, you don't like rich people, or, you know, money is the root of all evil, or, you know, all this kind of stuff that we get lumbered with around money, then it's not going to flow to you, because your energetics are not a match. You are not attracting what you think you want, because your actions, your energy, your frequency is saying otherwise. And everything is about frequency, right? Everything is about that magnetic life force, if you will. So yeah, my journey was understanding that money is just energy. And when I can release the stories and the narratives that I have around it, it will flow, because I'm no longer harboring other, you know, weighted narratives around what it means.
Right. And you saw a change as a result of letting that mindset go.
Yeah. So for me, I had struggled well, all my life, if you want to, if you want to really like drill into it. But from being an entrepreneur for the first 8 years in my entrepreneurial life, I struggled. I could never get past the 50K mark. It was like it felt like just this brick wall. It was like no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, I could not get past it. And on the outside, you're doing all the right things, the right things. You think you're working harder, you're getting more clients, but it never seems to make any difference. And when I again went on my spiritual journey and I changed everything, I changed my purpose, I got in alignment, I started a business that filled me up, and I was able to really be of service, right? Not chasing money, being of service so that money will flow to me. Then because I'd started a second business, then both of my businesses then grew to multiple six figures. But before that, I'd had 8 years of struggle.
Yes.
So
yes.
it's not overnight, but in the grand scheme of things, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
different.
What you're saying, I have experienced that, not around money necessarily, but in other ways recently. And what I'm realizing is that, yes, I may pray for this or I may pray for that, but it's about a willingness. It's about being open and being willing. And what I've realized is that just me, if I'm over here, I'm doing something unrelated to what I want over here. If I'm just willing over here, then that opens me up to everything. And I feel that's what you're talking about, with frequency and everything. It's about making ourselves available and releasing different mindsets that we've held that we're used to holding as human beings.
Yeah. 100%. It's that openness to receive, right? And it starts, everything that we receive comes from the same heart space. It all comes from here. And so, it can start with a compliment. If someone gives you a compliment, what's the most common thing that you do? You minimize it, right? Someone's like, oh, I love your hair today. I haven't washed it for a week. Or it's like, oh, I love your outfit. Oh, I just threw it on. It's always like a minimal, like we can never just be like, oh, thanks.
Exactly. Just thank you.
And that is the receiving portal. And so we have to start flexing that muscle, essentially. We have to start receiving, not just money, but anything that is given to us, because that's how we expand it.
Yes. Sometimes when people want to give us things, I know sometimes there might be a tendency to say, no, but that's a rejection. And it is about what you just said, to just accept it and welcome it, because then more will come from other resources. So absolutely.
Yes.
And so this is a part of your coaching. Is this a part of your Visionary Academy as well?
Yeah. So we have a whole module on the energetics of wealth, and really stepping into your wealthy era, right? It's understanding how money works, how it works as well in sales, in being an entrepreneur, especially in a soul-led way. Because I don't subscribe to hustle, grind, burnout culture anymore. I used to back in the day when I couldn't hit past 50K, I might add. So now I don't subscribe to that. I'm about to go on my 4th holiday of the year, running 3 businesses and birthing a 4th. And I've got lots and lots and lots of things that I do as a single mum of 2. I do not suffer from burnout because everything I do is in alignment. Everything that I say yes to lights me up. Otherwise I say no. I'm like, nah, no, I don't need to do that. It's not lighting me up. It's a no. So sorry, I digress there, but yes, it's 100% things that I teach in the Visionary Academy and also in our masterminds, right? So obviously you're part of a high-level mastermind that I have, and I'm currently creating another one to launch in January. And this is part of it. It's being able to step into the wealth that you desire consciously,
right?
But subconsciously allowing it to flow.
Exactly. And speak about your crystal business a little bit.
Yeah, I love crystals. They're like, I don't know if you can see any actually behind me at the moment.
I do
Probably not.
too. I do too.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
the crystals, we started it back in lockdown 21. Again, like I said, we'd fallen into it. I had that kind of vision or intuition or whatever you want to call it at the time, where I kind of had a feeling, but I didn't know what I was meant to do with it. And then, yeah, my daughter just suddenly found herself in the world of Instagram lives in the lockdown. And one day she came to me and she was like, Mum, we should do this, because I'd started like collecting crystals at that point for myself. And I'm a generator in human design, right? So if someone says something to me and it lights up my body, I'm like, yes. So I was like, yes, we should. And within a week, that was it. Within a week, we had the logo, we had like the Instagram page, we had found someone to start building a website, because I'm about action, right?
Yes.
You have to take action. And we found it just, yeah, everything just happened so divinely, because we wanted to make sure that we sold ethically sourced crystals. Okay, because that's
You
something
sold what?
ethically sourced crystals. So making sure that there's no child labor involved, that there's no kind of mistreatment of workers, all this kind of stuff that is notorious in the crystal industry, unfortunately. So we were like, I was like, I want to do it, but if we're going to do it, I want to do it right.
Yes.
And it was a new world to us. Okay, so we had no knowledge of this world or this industry. And so we'd started hunting around, like, okay, ethically sourced crystal suppliers, Google, talking to people, like, how do we find these people? Couldn't find anything that felt right. That's what I'll say, that felt right. It was like, sometimes you just have to follow your intuition. It's like they say the right things, but you're just like, I'm not sure. So we couldn't find anything. Yeah. And then randomly, again, divine intervention, whatever you want to call it, was just on Instagram or Facebook, I can't remember. And there was like a little post. I can't remember what it was, but it just caught my eye. And I reached out to them and I was like, are you an ethically sourced supplier? And she was the most lovely person you could ever speak to. She's like, yeah, do you want to come down and meet us? Blah, blah, blah. Within a week, we had gone down there. It was a family-run business, and I'd fallen in love with them. They were just the most beautiful souls that you had ever met in your life. But the reason why I say it was divine intervention is because they hardly ever post on social media. So it was just like a random fluke of whatever you want to call it, that I had even seen that post and fallen into.
So you sell crystals and people can go to your website and see the different types and what they represent.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So every week, most weeks we go to our suppliers, we handpick everything just intuitively, what resonates with us, depending on what shipments they have in. Everything's on our website. Sometimes my daughter does like events and things around like the UK. But yeah, obviously, like, we're franchising it now. So that potentially is going to be global, because it doesn't matter, right? We have clients at the moment across the world, and in the States a lot. So yeah, the plan is to take that global, and people who either want their own crystal business but don't know how to source to make sure it's right, don't want thousands of pounds tied up in stock, don't want to be wrapping millions of boxes a week, all that kind of stuff. This is for them, right? Or even holistic practitioners that want to add it into their services.
Yeah.
It's, like Reiki healers or even mindset coaches, that kind of thing. It's for anyone who wants to offer it as a part of what they do, but doesn't want the hassle of actually having to do all of the back end stuff. And
right. I have a friend who does Reiki. And she also has just a treasure trove of crystals. So I'm definitely going to let her know about you.
Yeah.
We met through Ignite, Lisa Nichols' Ignite program. And I'm just so curious what drew you to the program because you are already an inspiration. What did you want to get out of that experience?
Well, this year has been a massive, what's the best way to call this year? It's been a massive, oh God, like a year of lessons for me. I self-sabotaged my crystal business. I have been through many pivots. I've kind of been on different paths. It's been a whirlwind of a year. I wouldn't change any of it because it's all brought me to where I am now, right? But ultimately, I had really found my true purpose, that I wanted to be a speaker, that I wanted to stand on stages, and I wanted to share my journey, my story, my voice. You know, sometimes, like I say, I don't even know what's going to come out, but I finally owned that that was what I was here to do. Whereas before, I'd always felt like it wasn't possible for me. Like I wouldn't be able to be that person. As much as I wanted it, I wouldn't be able to do it. And so I'd put it, I just tell you this story quickly, because I'd put it out to the universe. I kid you not. I put it out to the universe and I had actually written it down. I want to be a speaker. Okay. I think I'd put like a motivational speaker. That was always my thing. Just because of my energy, it's what everyone always tells me. So I was like, I want to be a motivational speaker. I want to speak on stages. I had done a quantum leap kind of vision process where I'd seen myself on a stage in a red suit. And I was like, it's going to happen. Okay. It's going to happen. So I put it out to the universe, like first time properly. And a week later, I went into town with my daughter. She was just like, Mum, do you want to go shopping? I was like, okay. Hadn't done it for ages. Walked into Zara and there was a red suit that, I kid you not, you've seen me in it, but it was the exact vision that I had had. And I was just like, I didn't even try it on. I was just like, I know my size in Zara. I was like, I'm just buying it right now. And in that moment, I just knew that it was all going to happen. And Lisa just, again, divine intervention came up on my feed. I wasn't even following her. I obviously knew her and she was in my orbit, but I wasn't actually following her. And I was just like, yes, I'm here for this, like 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That is so amazing. I usually ask people, are they a healer or a seeker? How do you see yourself, as a healer or a seeker?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. So I guess I've never really considered myself a healer because I mean, you might have a different stance on this, but because I don't have what I would say are healing gifts necessarily. But I don't know, maybe I'm leaning towards my healing gift is in my voice. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
You're definitely a healer. Healer. I don't know if part of you is a seeker too, or are you already in that knowing? Because there's so much that you already know, in terms of, your wisdom and connection to the universe.
I think there is, but then we're always growing, right? We never know everything. So my personal opinion is we should always all be seekers forever, because there's always more to know. There's always more to learn. There's always more to find out. So I think whether you're a healer or not, you should always remain a seeker.
I agree. I mean, I do feel that I am a seeker naturally, but I also feel that there's no way we can know everything in this form. I don't see how it's possible. Well, how can people get in touch with you? What is the best way?
So Instagram is probably where I hang out the most. You can get me on Clare Garner Official or Empowered Phoenix Rise. I have both those handles. That's probably your best place to find me, or Facebook. I've suddenly kind of been drawn into the Facebook world more recently. So again, Clare Garner on Facebook.
Well, you are a real inspiration. I've so enjoyed this. I'm really excited about, my audience getting to know you and all that you're doing. And it's a miracle, a blessing that you have come to the awareness that you have, the knowing and empowerment in my view, after everything that you've been through.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Well, thank you so much, Claire.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Remember, you can listen to all of our episodes wherever you listen to podcasts. Like the episode, send Let's Start Healing to at least one person that you know. Until next time, let's start healing.